Okay. I tried to do this yesterday, and I had some issues with my phone where the video didn't save. So I'm going to cover this again because I have watched the whole thing through, and I can tell you what the problem is with the two latest stories that Vosh is pushing forward.
Third set of accusations against Andrew Callahan.
Okay, so I met Andrew Callahan almost a couple years ago now, and I spoke to him maybe this spring or summer. We had an intimate relationship, and I thought it was mostly consensual, but he did always push my boundaries and, felt pressured at times. There have been many.
Okay, so let's restate this. This is a girlfriend-boyfriend situation where, and she's going to get into this as well, where she had long-term expectations for him. So we're not talking about date rape at this point. We're not talking about like a single night experience of casual sex. We're talking now about a relationship in which she felt that he was immature and was behaving badly at times. But she's vague. We don't know what that means.
Things that have been huge red flags that I've clearly stayed blind to, but
Don't start with part 5, but she's starting here.
the last time I saw him and we were intimate together, I feel like he took advantage of the fact I liked him so much and pretty much went stealth on me, technically.
I also really hate the fact that she's using an avatar to do this. That's very childish, really weird. You're talking about a very serious subject and you've got an avatar over your face.
We've been very clear about wearing condoms from the first day we met. Since I am a single mom, I'm not on birth control, and, I won't choose abortion for myself at this point in my life. And he was fully aware of that.
Okay, so you're going to be in a long-term relationship. You're a single mom. You're anti-abortion. But you won't take birth control. You won't go get a shot of Depo. Right? But you want to have a long-term relationship with him. And you're going to be wearing condoms the whole time. Right? That's what we're saying here. You're going to be wearing condoms the whole time, despite the fact that you are in a long-term relationship with your boyfriend.
He still chose to insert his penis without a condom, and I didn't realize until he was already going, and I liked him so much, I just let it continue, and I even felt like maybe this was a step towards, maybe something more serious. He knew I wanted a relationship. We talked about it multiple times. I've even cut.
Okay, this is a PSA for everyone watching who might not know, but there are many ways to indicate that you are interested in a relationship, and a chick bareback, when she's asked you not to, is not one of them. You can use words. You can do a cute little bouquet with a card in it. There are lots of things you can do. Probably not that though. Stealthing's 100% rape. Yeah.
Off the relationship, saying I didn't want to hook up, and then he pretty much got me back because he said, other things I'll get into. But yeah, I do have a serious fear of STDs, and
Stealthing is when you have sex with somebody, when you've said that you will put on a condom, but you do not put on a condom. So you've it can be like you wear a condom, but then you remove it mid-sex, or you just them without one when it's been indicated that you are both, that you want to wear a condom. Yeah.
Stealthing is rape. It is rape. But it is, I think, pretty unusual for anybody who is anticipating being in a long-term relationship to not have a more permanent birth control situation going on than condoms. That's unusual. And so if she was this picky about how it was going to be, I can see why he might have been non-committal in the situation. Like, well, I mean, if we're going to have to do condoms the whole time, I mean, That's not generally what monogamous couples do. Um, so I don't know. And also, like, where'd you find this anti-abortion chick? Are we starting to see a pattern here that these people might actually be Republicans? Oh, look at that. A bunch of Republican women coming after him after he releases his HBO show. Okay.
Even do that? I mean, it's pretty easy to do. Like, if a chick's in doggy or whatever, like, she's kind of over there vision-wise. You know what? It's don't do it.
Knew Andrew had a list of bitches, which is something that he said, or a list of bitches down for a threesome specifically. And so, like, I can only imagine how many lists he has at this point after reading some of these things I've been saying. But
I've had a condom come off during sex, but it wasn't intentional. Yeah, that's just an accident. Like, if you're f***ing somebody and like the condom slips off during sex, or like it ends up inside them, which that's a nightmare to deal with. That's an accident. That's not. But you can feel the difference. If you're really going at it, I think it's totally reasonable to say that you might not have noticed the condom slipped off or broke or something.
No, you can feel the difference. You can feel the difference between latex and skin. It's a big difference. You can absolutely tell the difference. You can tell the difference. This Avatar bullshit is really strange to me. I think it would have been better if she didn't want to reveal her face. It would have been better had she just done it as a sound file rather than this weird image that we're looking at. This is very bizarre to me. And it's also bizarre to me that she's anti-abortion. And that she's anti-birth control. Like, what kind of Republican are you talking to right now?
If you're really going at it, you're pretty busy, you know. You're in the zone, but we're talking about deliberately not putting on a condom.
yeah, it just grossed me out. And so I asked him later if he gets checked for STDs. It's really important to me, my sexual health. He claims that he actively does go to get checked and he never has sex without protection, which is totally a lie. Now that I've read some things, he just wanted to make me feel special or like downplay the fact he technically like assaulted me. Like, I didn't see it like that because, I wanted that, and I refused to see it like that. Even though I have mentioned it to people and they're like, oh, like.
How the hell am I supposed to look at that and take that seriously? How am I supposed to look at that avatar and take that seriously as like a serious claim? This is the weirdest fucking bullshit that you keep pulling up these stories that are so bizarre that how am I supposed to believe that? How am I supposed to look at that avatar and be like, yep, right? This is really weird shit.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
I never felt I could talk about this and the other instances where he didn't actually respect my boundaries, because I do work in the adult entertainment industry. And
yeah, did you miss that part, Vosh? Because you don't say anything about it. You don't say anything about it. She says she works in the adult entertainment industry. So, okay, so if dude has kinks, right? He apparently has a list of people who are willing to do threesomes with him. Not illegal. I mean, like, if he's got some kinks. A lot of grown-ass adults do have some kinks. She works in the adult entertainment industry. She is anti-abortion and anti-birth control. Where are we supposed to go with this? And she's using a weird-ass avatar on her face. Where are we supposed to go with this, Vosh?
I'm so opposite of social climbing and cloud chasing to the point I refuse to work with other creators, and I only create solo content. I don't collaborate and even network, and I suffer.
What is your solo content? Are you like in an Andrew Tate situation? Are you do you have like some sort of porn channel? Like, what's happening? Is it like soft porn? Is it just like nudity? Like, what's happening here? What in the world is happening here? I just like, I don't get this at all. And obviously, if you're doing soft porn or whatever, or nudity or whatever, why are you so afraid of showing your face that you put this weird ass avatar on?
With PTSD. So, here I am. I've stopped dating completely and been abstinent after what happened with Andrew. It's actually affected other parts of my life. I feel pathetic talking about.
If an AFAB person says they're on birth control but actually aren't, is that considered rape as well? Dad asked this in chat before. I want to know what you think. I think it is. You know what? Ooh, that's actually a tough one. I'm going to go ahead and say to an extent, yeah, I kind of think so. Yeah. If you can say that.
Yeah, it is. It is. If the girl you're with is lying about being on birth control, that's rape too. Because, and I know some men who ended up in situations with like that and ended up with children as a result of it, because they're like, oh no, I did everything right. I had the condom, she was menstruating, she was on birth control, but the condom probably broke, right? The condom or had some sort of hole in it, and you can get pregnant when you're menstruating. And she was probably lying about being on birth control, because it is highly unlikely that you're going to get pregnant in a serious scenario like that. So somebody was not telling the truth.
That stealthing is rape because you consent to sex under the expectation that you're protected in that respect, but you're not. Then the idea, I think it's comparable. Yeah. We're riding into like increased abstraction because now we're talking about something that influences the sex, but has no actual like. It's something that influences it only like in the long term, as opposed to like something in the moment. Because then you can get into stuff like, well, okay, is it raping somebody if you lie and you say you own a Bugatti but you actually don't? And I don't know if I would call that rape, because even though that might be sex under false pretenses, I just don't know if I'm comfortable with the establishment of a precedent where having sex with somebody after any kind.
I have a friend who was raped when I think she was a teenager. She was raped when she was a teenager. And she likes to tell people that there is no shame in whatever pleasurable feelings might have happened during the scenario. It's still rape. Like, even if the person was capable of actually making it feel good while it happened, it's still rape. If you didn't consent to it, it's still rape. And that's going to be the same case with pulling the condom off or lying about your birth control status. Because even if it felt good, it's still rape because you've lied to your partner. You've lied to your partner and you've put them in a terrible position of potentially having to have a child. That's a huge deal.
Dishonesty is rape, but not being on birth control when you say you are isn't like just any kind of dishonesty. It's like specific to whether or not somebody might consent to sex with you. It influences very directly like the decision-making process on sex itself, as opposed to just broadly your perception of the person. So yeah, okay, I don't know. Yeah, it's comparable but not the exact same. Yeah, because like I said, unlike wearing or not wearing a condom, which does have an immediate impact on the sex, the birth control thing doesn't. It's like.
Well, that's why there's degrees of rape. There's that sort of trickery, right? That maybe you're enjoying yourself, but you are not totally aware of the circumstances. You're being lied to. And there is date rape, where it's like the pestering situation, right? He's coming on really strong, and women can do that too. They can come on really strong. And then there's forcible rape, which is much more violent, right?
sort of an extra consideration around it, but it's not like something you do right then or there. I don't know. Those can just fail sometimes. Then no, what if it's about to expire? Well, I'm talking about deliberately lying about it, not about there being an accident. That happens, right? My issue with this precedent is that Destiny literally used this logic to justify the if you don't tell the person that you are dating that you are trans, it's tantamount to rape. Don't you learn if a person is trans, kind of like when you take their pants off? If they've had bottom surgery and they pass from head to toe, even naked, then I don't see how that's rape at all. I don't know what that has to do with anything. I don't think this has anything to do with trans people.
Well, and also I think it would be virtually impossible not to know that you're with a transgender. If I assume we're talking about transgender women, most transgender women still have an Adam's apple. I mean, that is a whole other surgery that I think is very painful to have it shaved down or whatever it is that happens there. But it would also leave a lot of scars. So, like, why do it, right? There's generally, I mean, we're talking about people on the gender spectrum where they have attributes of both sexes, probably, right? So it's not gonna, you're gonna be able to tell. You're gonna be able to tell. And I think it's highly unlikely that a transgender woman wouldn't, if they were going to have a sexual experience with you, that they wouldn't give you a heads up of, okay, here's my life story and where I come from, right? I think that's unlikely because hooking up with people already is very difficult, but it's even more difficult when you come from like an insecure place like that where you're gonna have to like really tip your toe in the water and figure out, you know, if your partner is okay with your situation. And there's plenty of people out there that are perfectly fine with having those types of relationships. So I don't see what the problem, but you're going to know in advance. Nobody's going to fucking trick you like that. That's ridiculous. They're not going to be like, dude, right in the middle of it, by the way, I used to have a penis and now I don't. It's not gonna go that way. By the way, I heard the surgery consists of taking all of the sensitive skin from the penis and then creating a cavity and lining the cavity with the sensitive penis skin. And that's how basically a vagina is created in that transition process, but still has the sensitivity to enjoy sex, right? Because that was my big concern for people transitioning is, but how, you know, like if you lose this organ, how are you, like, what will your pleasure, like, how do you get pleasure, basically? So I'm glad that I looked it up because I wanted to know that it would be something that would like result in really feeling like the transition happened, like really feeling like a woman and feeling pleasure during sex, you know? So I'm glad that I looked that up and found out more about it.
Yeah, but Riot, a condom, worn or not worn, is something that you do right then and there. It affects physically the act. Whereas birth control is just like an adjacent, like it affects it, but you don't do anything with birth control while you're having sex, you know? No, I don't think that not saying you're trans is rape or whatever. What about lying about an STD? Probably yes, right? Yeah, don't lie about having an STD or not. I mean, that's literally a crime. It's a misdemeanor, I think. Yeah, to say that you don't have an STD, but then to have sex and pass it on. Yeah, it's like a kind.
That's even true with AIDS. Like AIDS got downgraded to, I think, a misdemeanor at this point because they consider it treatable now. If you're HIV positive, you can be on the cocktail and it's treatable. But they reduced the severity of lying about having HIV.
Of sexual assault. It's sexual assault, not rape. Okay. Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that like the legal and moral difference between sexual assault and rape is already really fuzzy. Like, do by
I think, well, anything that's like, I think that it's the crossover is when it's penetration. If you are penetrated somehow, then that's what makes it rape. So, like, any one of your orifices, right? Doesn't have to necessarily be a vagina. It could be an anus. It could be your mouth, you know. Um, any of those situations would be rape, penetration.
rape do we exclusively mean some kind of penetration? But yeah, I don't know. Like, I'm not. We're not talking about hard legal lines here. I'm just talking about what you should or shouldn't do. They're bad, you know. I'm not here to draw. I'm not doing the Olympics thing where we're like charting out the, okay, well, this type of rape is a 4.7 on the scale, and this is a 3.2, and this is actually an 8.7, which is really bad, you know. So yeah, let's not do that. It's pretty dumb. The idea of if you have sex under false pretenses, it's rape, but I don't think having sex under false pretenses is necessarily rape. Like, if you say, oh yeah, I'm like, yeah, I have a good job, but then you have a medium job, I don't think that makes it rape. That seems like, I mean, depending on where the false pretenses are, that feels like an incredibly difficult line to draw. I think it would depend on like what the actual impact or moral weight of it is. And again, lying about being on birth control isn't just some abstract thing that determines whether you like a person or not. It immediately affects the risks involved in having sex right then at that moment. You know? Like, for instance, I don't think there's much worth at all to whether a person is honest about being on birth control when having lesbian sex between two cis women. Because then the birth control wouldn't mean anything, right? Like, one person could say, oh yeah, I'm on birth control for like, because it helps me clear my skin, but they're not. But like, it wouldn't mean anything in the context of them having sex because...
Yeah, it's not, I mean, obviously, like, I don't even know why you're talking about that. Like, I think everybody understands that two women cannot make each other pregnant, right? two women are not going to be able to make each other pregnant. And there are lots of people who actually take birth control to control their acne situations. Or other, it also has other aspects of balancing the hormones. There are other medicinal purposes for birth control. For me, it's always like, you know, I think for most women, birth control makes you gain 10 pounds. It can sometimes reduce your sex drive, and sometimes it can make you break out. It really, you know, it affects people differently.
They're two cis women, so then it wouldn't be material. But it would be material if one person had a penis, because then it would affect the decision making. Does that make sense? Is it rape if I say my dick is bigger than it is? Yes. If you've got a 5.8 and you round it up to 6, that is rape, okay? If you listen boys, okay? You better get those micrometers out, all right? We need precision down to the 2 decimal point, all right? Because if you lie about that shit, all right, the police are coming for you. Okay, can we move on? We're being very goofy on a very serious subject right now.
Weird. I don't know why y'all talking about dick size in the comments. I don't think I've had anybody below a 7. Maybe one. Maybe the first one. Because he was a little Asian dude. He might have been kind of small. But that's good for a break-in, right?
I never made a big deal to him directly, besides checking the STD thing. And it's just because I was holding back anger, honestly, and I wanted to be calm and bring it up to him in person so that we could really discuss it. I knew his influence in the social media world, and it could
See, there we go again. Like, okay, so people generally who have been victimized, who feel that, hey, they've come to the terms of it, they are accepting in their mind, hey, I was victimized, right? They do not seek direct interaction with the perpetrator. That is highly unusual to do that, and yet every one of these girls is like, I wanted to talk to him, I texted him, I wanted to speak with him about it directly. Why? If you feel like you were raped, why would you want to ever see that person ever again? That's why these stories are not adding up to me. Because all it took, like, maybe I'm a prude, I don't know. But all it took for me was having my ass get grabbed and being mistreated and asked whether or not I loved him and blah, blah, blah. And for me to immediately start pulling away from that friendship. And I didn't want to see him anymore. I didn't want to volunteer with him anymore. I finished the couple of commitments that we had set up, and then I pulled away immediately. Like, I stayed away from him. I didn't let him in my car anymore. Like, I'm just not getting it. Like, if you all feel like you were victimized, why do you keep coming back to this dude?
See affect my work, especially because he has direct connections with many top adult industry creators. Like, so I just had I had every reason not to say anything and not think, and just let it go. So I couldn't stand by.
Okay, I think the claim has been made here. Okay, so he's stealthed.
Well, he's not. You know what, though? You're not at all addressing the fact that she tried to make it out like it's a bad thing that he has a kink for three-ways, while at the same time saying she works in the adult entertainment industry. Like, this is blowing some stuff out of proportion.
All right. Stealthing is bad.
Yeah, of course it is.
And then somebody linked another video.
Okay, I want to talk about my experience with Andrew Callahan. I was really shocked to read what was coming out in the news about him, because it was very similar to my interaction with him. I want to be clear that he did not traumatize me in this situation. When I look back on that experience, I thought it was kind of funny that this guy who's got so many followers was like kind of creepy. I don't know. I look back on it and I'm not met with feelings of being violated, but I know a lot of women did have experiences that were worse than mine and did feel violated. And I think that putting my story forward is important because it just further emphasizes
This one is just jumping on the bandwagon. I've watched this whole thing already, and so I've watched her video and Vash's take on it all the way to the end, and she has no claims whatsoever. And at one point she says something about her hubby. So this one was married trying to hook up with Andrew Callahan.
the pattern of his behavior. So about 2.5 years ago, maybe 3 years ago, Andrew was in Gainesville, Florida, which is where I was living.
Nothing good happens in Florida. We're off to a rocky start.
And he was asking if anyone knew where this guy Dennis was, because he wanted to interview him. Dennis was this guy who wore little mini shorts and would scream things at people on street corners. And he was kind of like...
See, this is really where Andrew fucked up, is that he was doing so many stories on like the MAGA crowd and the QAnoners and the Republicans and stuff like that, that he ended up in a circle of women that potentially would do this because of politics, because it would be a political move. This is where he really screwed up, because you shouldn't piss where you eat, basically, right? And if this is the stories he's going to be covering, he shouldn't be trying to date the people that he meets in that crowd, because it can only end up badly, right?
A meme of Gainesville, and he wanted to interview him. I saw that on his story that he was asking if anybody knew him or where he was. And as I was reading it, Dennis happened to walk right in front of my car. And so I swiped up on his story and said, oh my God, like, you know, he's right here. Check this road. He's right by my house. And he responded with something about pulling up to a bar, that he was at a bar and wanted me to meet with him there. Now, I want to understand something. I have screenshots of some of the DMs with him. I don't have screenshots of everything, and I wonder if you guys know if it's possible for somebody to delete a conversation on their
Wait, does this include the accusation or not?
end and it doesn't show up on your Instagram anymore. Otherwise, I guess I deleted them. I don't know why I would have, but I did screenshot a couple of the DMs, so I'll include those here. Pause to read.
Oh, okay. Check Roger, right? You're inside my hood. I legit live right here. Thanks, the info. Pull up to the bar.
So,
That was useless commentary. That was completely useless commentary. What you can do is say, this is what we discussed. I no longer have screenshots of this, but this is what we discussed. You can make an allegation and say, this is what we discussed. But instead, it's just this weird commentary about, I used to have screenshots, but now I don't. Okay, let's go.
for some context, he was at this bar in town, and my puppy was visiting with me. He had really bad separation anxiety.
These are so boring. I get they're serious. I'm not really interested in some random internet dude being creep. Well, he's not really a random guy, but I think at this point, I feel like there's just some kind of like existential horror / comedy to just how bad he was, I feel like there's some value in familiarizing ourselves with the extent to which a person can be terrible and just get away with it for a long time. I don't know. There's something here. There's something instructive here. I don't know.
I think it's interesting.
And I couldn't leave him. And I was saying that to him. I said, I can't. My puppy's with me. And in the later DMs, which, okay, I guess go to part 2.
Okay.
I want to talk about...
Oh.
Okay, part 2. In later DMs, which again, I don't know why they disappeared, but that's all I have. He was just like being pretty insistent, like just come, bring your dog. That's fine, just bring your dog. Come to the bar. And I thought, okay, like this is a unique experience. I'll just go for one drink and it'll be fine. And so I drove down to the bar. And I walk in.
He must get off on this. Yeah, people like Andrew Callahan don't rape because they like casually kind of don't get consent, and they don't do it because they have no other options. They do it because they specifically like having power over the people they rape, or sexually assault, or control, or dominate, or coerce, or whatever.
And it's like all guys. There wasn't many women hanging around, and I saw him. He immediately knew who I was from my Instagram, and he gave me a hug and was, talking to me. And
how do you know that? Because it's a well-researched psychological subject, and the idea that rapists rape because they want to have sex and no other reason is a long-standing reactionary conservative talking point that is often used to hamper the extent to which you can meaningfully address stuff like rape culture. The idea that people rape just because they want to have sex is like a thought-terminating cliche to keep people from a proper sociological analysis of the way in which rape culture perpetuates. It's very well studied. Like psychologists, researchers into the DSM stuff, they're in agreement on this. It's not like a hot take or anything.
This is why rape rates are higher in oppressed countries. So like South Africa has a really high rate of rape because of apartheid. Because rape is a way for men to feel powerful. That's why they do it.
Go to order myself a drink, and there was a drink on the menu that was called the Slutty Redhead. And I kind of laughed at that, and he asked me if I was a slutty redhead. And I said, no.
But don't a lot of people rape without knowing? How's it both? I think oftentimes guys have not just guys, people in general have a very poor understanding of consent, and they have a very casual kind of like, oh, well, it's fine because X, or it's fine because Y idea. But Andrew Callahan's story is not one of that. Andrew Callahan was directly told, he was apparently kicked out of a car, because he was like,
He was making moves on his girlfriend, right? She invited him into the car. She was going to give him a ride. And when she said no, he left the vehicle and threw a tantrum. Okay?
like freaking these women out. He was like stalking them, following them around. There are stories about him doing insane shit. He didn't.
There are no stories of him stalking any of the women who have actually come forward. And this story isn't even a story, Vosh. At the end of it, like, you're going to get to the end of this and there's no actual accusations of being violated. Like, this is a complete waste of time. And it just shows how bad your coverage is. That you keep lifting up these stories that actually are meaningless to whether or not the guy, you know, he admits that he's bushy and that he wants to seek therapy for this. But realistically, he's not behaving much differently than a lot of dudes out there that are also feel like they need to make the moves, feel like they need to pursue, and so on and so forth. There are a lot of creepers out there, by the way. There's a lot of fucking creepers out there. And it's on us as well to be, you know, like, loud about it and say, nope, not interested. I'm leaving now. Let them throw their tantrum. Let them throw their tantrum. It's better than getting raped.
Do this unknowingly. He did this because he wanted power over people. To an extent, having the desire to have power over your victim and a kind of casual unawareness of consent, those aren't mutually exclusive, but I do think rapists tend to lean in one of those two directions. It's basically like you lean towards ignorance or you lean towards malice, right? But it's not just because they want sex. There's something wrong with their ideas regarding, like, the autonomy of other people in both cases.
Oh, you know, no. And, like, you know, I thought that was...
Honestly, I think you might be getting that wrong. You're not a mental health professional, and neither am I. But in this case, where he is responding to the word no, and the women are giving him openings, right? They're getting into a car with him. They're going to a bar with him. They're taking him back to their house. There are openings there. This may, in fact, be sexually driven rather than power driven. I mean, it might be both things. But to me, and like I said, I'm not a mental health professional, but neither are you, Vosh. It sounds to me like a sex addiction.
Here's an article. Oh yeah, here we go, from Psychology Today. Sexual assault is about power. More about power than it is about sex. Although the touch may be sexual, the words seductive or intimidating, and the violation physical. When someone rapes, assaults, or harasses, the motivation stems from the perpetuator's need for dominance and control. Right. It's a well-regarded thing. Almost half of all women and more than 1/5 of all men experience sexual violence other than rape throughout their lifetime.
Whatever. And we moved on in the conversation. And then I finished my drink. It was time for me to go. And I was, like, saying goodbye.
So if it's a recurring pattern, it's more likely they enjoy the power difference. I think that is a reasonable assessment to make. I'm not trying to do any apologia shit here. I do genuinely believe there are guys who will do something that is rape, but in their head, they think they're doing, like, an okay thing. Like, they've heard so many stories of, like, oh, chicks play hard to get, or, oh, you know, like, women kind of, like, don't want to be easy, so they'll, like, say no, but they really mean yes or whatever. And in the guy's head, he's thinking, oh, yeah, it's like that. So she does want to have sex. She's just, like, you know, doing the thing girls do. And then he will rape her. And in his head, he's like, okay, well, that's how it works, right? Now, that is awful. I'm not defending that behavior. But it is possible for stuff like that to happen as a product of, like, a sort of ignorance and kind of like a learned callousness towards the autonomy of others, not malice necessarily. Again, that doesn't make it okay or good. It doesn't mean that that person couldn't be criminally prosecuted or anything. You can, after all, go to jail for accidentally committing crimes. I'm not making that, you know, any opposite claim. I'm only saying that that is a thing that can happen. But the more that happens with one guy, I think it's reasonable to assume, like, that person either has an insanely ignorant, callous attitude towards others' autonomy, or he kind of knows what he's doing. And I think the more often this happens, I think it's easier to make a determination that they're acting out of malice. And Callahan, apparently, rape king of Seattle, it seems. I don't buy the ignorance bit.
And I got a picture with him, which I'll insert that here. So that was us at the bar.
That is Andrew Callahan.
And so I tell him I gotta go be with my dog. He, this was during the time when he was driving the RV around, I think. And he was like, oh, you should come back to the RV with us. And I was like, oh, I can't really do that. I gotta go. And he's like, no, you should. And I'm like, I drove here, like, I'm good. And he says, well, let me drive you home then. Or he either said that or we'll take an Uber together. I don't remember. It was like...
An Uber together? Why the f*** would you take an Uber together? What the f***?
I know. Why aren't you asking more questions like that, Vosh? Why aren't you asking more questions like that? Like, what? But, okay, if you're feeling like he's creepy, why are you letting him get in a car with you? If you feel like he's creepy, why are you letting him get in a car with you?
What does that mean?
Like I said, like 3 years ago. But he was saying, like, no, just like, I'll take you home. And then he was saying, why don't you come back to the hotel with me? And I said, no, again. And he repeated that a few times. And I left. So, like I said, I was not traumatized by this experience. However, I do think that...
So nothing happened. Nothing happened. He just was trying to get you to... He was trying to get some casual sex with you, but you turned him down, and he accepted your no, and nothing happened. So, Vosh, why did you highlight this woman's story?
Okay, so she's just sort of attesting to him being a creep. Okay.
There is certainly a pattern of behavior here. I don't know. I was shocked to hear about what happened because I'd never heard anything but positive things about Andrew. And it was just so bizarrely familiar.
Keeping in mind that the last two that he did have said that they're live streamers. One of them was in the adult entertainment industry, and this one is a live streamer on Instagram, right? So every single one of these girls coming forward have an opportunity of boosting their channels by doing so. Her story has nothing in it. But he gave her all of that airtime. He gave her all that airtime, despite the fact that she has no actual allegations.
The insistence.
Dude was trying to f*** in a bar. That's not really shocking. Yeah, there's nothing shocking about asking a girl, hey, do you want to come back to my place? The shocking thing, or I guess the weird thing, is asking it like 10 more times.
Yeah, but you don't know that that's actually what happened. You don't no, I don't want I'm trying, how do I... There we go. No? Okay. I think honestly you got to stop interjecting like that because you don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. But that woman had no claims whatsoever. She just wanted to be like, I hung out with him once and he asked me to come back to the hotel with me and I said no. All right, cool. Why are you getting featured on Vosh's channel for that kind of bullshit? What is that? It's not, you're not showing creepy behavior. You're showing somebody who wants to jump on the bandwagon and get her channel boosted. I think that's it.